I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Hello there, Brian Santos here. I hope you're doing well out there in quarantine. Welcome to another edition of Quarantine with the Stars. This is our daily show here on AfterBuzz TV, where we bring you interviews with some of Hollywood's best and brightest stars from right here in our home. I am joined by an actress, writer, singer, and just someone so amazing. Kelly Murtagh, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to chat with you via Zoom.
Yes, I'm so excited to be here with you. I'm so excited to talk about everything going on, your projects, how you're staying sane during quarantine, and being an entertainment boss as well. So let's jump right into all of that.
Great. Thank you. I put on real clothes for this interview. Not in
I'm
leggings or sweatpants or pajamas.
I'm happy you did. Let's jump in. So Kelly, first tell me how you're doing and how you're staying sane during quarantine.
I am taking it day by day, some days one breath at a time. I find when I try to control things I can't control, I just could go down the rabbit hole and get really anxious and meditating a lot, taking care of myself and just trying to go back to basics, spending a lot of time outside in nature and with my daughter. She's an almost 3-year-old Fallon, and just trying to really find the balance, of not being too informed, reading the news in the morning and kind of setting those boundaries of what I can and can't control. But it's hard, it's weird, it's uncertain, it's scary, it's a lot of the feelings. So I'm also trying to allow myself to feel whatever I need to feel.
Definitely. As an actor, are you doing anything to kind of stay sharp? Are you reading scripts? Are you watching TV? Anything like that?
I definitely feel like I've been watching, well, Tiger King, obviously.
Everybody is.
Like,
I've yet to watch it.
that you haven't watched it yet?
I haven't, but I heard it's like everyone is talking about it. I have to get on it.
It's fascinating. It's great people watching and just character study, which sounds
Yes.
odd, but it's one of those moments where you're like, truth is stranger than fiction. You wouldn't believe it if it was just a movie. But yes, watching movies, TV. I've been doing a couple of like monologue challenge things where I've just been sending some monologues to casting directors, which is great that they've been able
Nice.
to like open up their scope to find new people. And I've always been sort of a daydreamer, imaginative person. So I feel like in a way having this idle time and spending time outside has been good for my imagination because I've been coming up with ideas here and there. And then I think the most creative focused thing we've done is my husband is an actor as well. And we did this little TV show with our daughter and our dog. And it was super cute.
Cute.
Paper. The title card was on a Magnadoodle. And
Hmm.
it was super fun, but we got really into it. We were like doing ADR, and post was taking like 4 days. And I was like, we gotta, all right, this is be like a 2-minute long, but it came out really, really cute. We have 2 episodes. We need to pick it back up and do the third episode. But that was fun. That was fun to feel like we were like sort of writing and directing, and our daughter, we were sort of forcing her to be the actress, and I don't think she really wanted to do it. Sometimes she did, but other times. So we had to do ADR. But yes, that was some ways for us to feel like we're still being creative. And then other
Definitely.
ways, I try not to feel. I think sometimes when you feel like you just need to survive on
Hmm.
a certain day, I was dealing with a lot of guilt where I was like, wow, I have all this idle time. I should be writing my memoir or something or my next script. And I definitely have ideas broiling, but I'm trying not to put too much pressure on myself because I do think that that's where it'll all die if I try to control
Hmm.
it too much. So again, finding the balance between those things, trying to
Definitely.
keep it light and creative and fun as much as I can.
Perfect. Well, speaking of balance and your husband, I know that you guys run your own production company, Water Meter Productions in New Orleans. So is it difficult juggling your acting career and running that production company? And are you still doing it now from home?
Yes, thank you for that great question. It is, I'm going to keep saying the word balance again, and it's going to sound really annoying. But We formed Water Meter Productions for our film Shapeless, which is the film that I wrote and we produced and we're in post production for. So we formed it to create this feature film, and now it's just been this huge learning process of wow, things I wish I would have known before I went in, and now things I know I'll do things differently on the next round. But I've learned through this process all about being a producer, which I thought I knew what it was, but then actually jumping in and being a producer and
Hmm.
having these responsibilities and having these things and challenges come up and learning how to bring yourself to it in the way that I bring myself to things, which is always leading with my heart. And so I do that when it comes to business. So try to find the balance with that of what I can do today, what I can, accomplish today versus what I have no control over. And then
Definitely.
also e- putting my health, mental health, physical health, and that of myself and my family's first always too. So balancing out that role of being a mom and also, I think as parents, I don't know if you're a parent or if you have a doggy or a kitty or anything, or if you're a pet parent. Um, Sometimes you can feel guilty, like, am I doing enough or am I being enough? Am I spending enough time?
Sure.
And I think that me showing up for her the best I can in an authentic way, and then also building this art from the ground
Hmm.
up is going to be really, really important for her to see. To hopefully one day see, wow, my mom did that. And like I can be a
Yes.
independent working mom too if I want to be or not. She can be whatever she wants to be.
Yes.
Love her anyway, but it's definitely challenging. I mean, and obviously some things are more busy at other times than they are at other times. And
Hmm.
it's a juggling act for sure, trying to stay grounded through the root of it all.
Definitely. Well, you're doing it well, and you're definitely doing your daughter proud. I'm sure she's gonna grow up, like you said, and see that her mom is a working
Oh,
mom and doing it all. So thank
oh,
you so much for that.
thanks.
So you mentioned Shapeless. I want to talk about that now. So I understand, of course, you wrote and starred in the film, and it's loosely based off your life and your struggles with an eating disorder. So how difficult was it that for to portray that topic that you actually experienced?
This is an it's sort of been an evolution as far as difficultness, is that a word? As far as like the challenge for
Yes.
me in order to become vulnerable. I had this idea 10 years ago when I was in treatment for bulimia for my eating disorder. I grew up as with a really strong musical background. I was a singer, trained in
Hmm.
music and singing, and I also around age 13 and 14 had developed an eating disorder, and I didn't really know what I was doing. It becomes your numbing device, it becomes your coping mechanism, it becomes this way that you can sort of let yourself go. Where I didn't feel like I could do that in my real life. I always thought I had to be like, I was a perfectionist and I thought I had to, keep it under a tight quarters, and
Yes.
so when in college, I went to try to have a voice lesson because I wanted to start singing again. And my vocal cords were it just wasn't working. I couldn't really hit certain notes. I didn't really have any breath control. So the voice teacher advised me to go to a doctor where they looked at my vocal cords and they were just ravaged. And he said, this comes from daily repeated severe acid reflux. Is something like that going on? And I couldn't face it. I could not face it. And so I said no, and I buried it down. And then finally, when I thankfully went to treatment out in California, thank goodness, I had this idea. And I was like, what if I would love to write a movie one day about a singer who's struggling with an eating disorder and is losing her ability to sing, but show what it's really like to have an eating disorder. It's not a
Hmm.
diet, it's not a phase, it is a mental
Yes.
health illness thing that you're dealing with. And I wanted to be authentic with it. And so, but then 10 years ago, I stopped myself. I was like, nobody's going to want to watch that movie. Like, that's too much. It's too shameful. Nobody's talking about it. And so it became this process of like, I would try to write a little and then it would become too painful. And then a couple years later, I try to write a little. Anyway, I finally, as I got older, and then as I became, when I got older and became pregnant and became a mother, and I really, really felt like, okay, this is the time that I need to
Yes.
be brave, share my story, because once I started opening up and talking about it, my shame lessened. And as that happened, and as I started collaborating with our director, Samantha, and our producers, and people started to hear me and they were curious and kind and compassionate. And that shame and the ability to talk about it, the shame lessened and the ability to talk about it and share my story felt easier. And what
Definitely.
I realized is I started to heal through the process of creating the art, talking about it, writing it, making the movie. And I found that when I camera was up and the direct Sam said action, things just flew. It felt effortless in a way where I was like, I think I was this was meant to be like I was meant to tell this story in this way, even though some days were really challenging, obviously certain scenes. But I just always had this trust in myself that I just needed to be vulnerable and go back to being honest. And so in a way it was really hard to come out of it afterward.
Sure.
I was so tired after production. So there's a couple weeks of just like sleeping and getting back to normal and being grateful we were home and being with our daughter. And then I realized I had a lot of residual anxiety. I think part of that comes from making an independent feature film.
Yes.
And then also diving back into that character where you're
Sure.
living so isolated and you're living in this paranoia. And so I really had to do a lot of meditating and journaling to kind of come back to my center. But I feel now that it is easier for me to share because I don't feel so stifled by shame. But I really, really understand how difficult it is for people to discuss their mental health. And so I feel very passionate about talking openly about it because I
Hmm.
hope that that can lead someone else to feel that they can be safe enough to have their own life-saving conversations, because
Yes.
I didn't talk about it for years leading up to when I got help, and then for years later, I didn't really honestly look at it either. So,
Yes.
it was not easy to come to this point. It took a lot of courage and feeling like I'm going to get judged or shamed or laughed at
Hmm.
or whatever. But little moments of being super uncomfortable and just taking tiny little steps. So I'm very grateful to be here, but it's obviously a learning process every day and it's a challenge every day. But I'm trying. I'm doing it.
Well, you're doing great. Thank you for sharing your story, Kelly. It's like so inspiring. And like you said, when you opened up and you're sharing it with the world, it's helping you to heal and it's definitely helping someone who sees your story to heal. So I love that so much. So before we go, I do want to ask real quick about your upcoming project, which is The
Yes,
Lovebirds on Netflix.
yes,
So I know that you had a great cast with you on that show. Issa Rae, even Anna Camp. So do you have any fun stories to share from working with anyone on set?
yes. So I was at the table read, and I am someone who speaks from my heart, as maybe you know. And if I have something to say where I feel like I'm gonna say it to them, not like if it's in words of encouragement or whatever. And I was very touched by Kumail Nanjiani's film The Big Sick that he wrote
Hmm.
with his wife Emily. Michael Showalter directed. And when I saw that film, my daughter was about 4 months old, and I had barely even had a first draft of Shapeless. I saw that movie, and it just something in that movie clicked for me. And I sat down for 2 weeks and wrote a first draft of the movie. So he's always been very inspiring to me. Issa Rae is.
Yes.
They've just they've written their own stories. They've put themselves out there. They're so incredibly talented and unique. And so I walked right up to Kumail Nanjiani, and my husband, he was like, "Kelly, I don't know, like you got to be careful." And I was like, "Okay, yes, I will wait for the right moment, but like I'm gonna say something." So anyway, I don't think I waited for the right moment. I think I walked right up to him, and I was like, and I went into this like sappy monologue about how much he inspires me and I appreciated his film and thank you for being vulnerable and sharing your story and how it inspired me to write my story. And I was like, it's nothing like yours. It just you doing that with your wife and you guys working together like that. Telling an authentic story was really inspiring to me. And he
For
was so
sure.
gracious. He was so gracious. He could have called security and been like, this but he was so kind and supportive and gracious. And same with Issa. I said, I think you're a really talented artist, and I appreciate you and your voice, and I'm so grateful to be working with you. And am that way. I just usually tell people those things
Same
where
here.
I can tell that about you. I can absolutely tell that about you. I think we both have a very empathetic nature. And so
Hmm.
I think why not spread some more light in the world? And so they were so kind and cool. And we had some really fun times on set. We were able to improv a lot, which I love. I studied with UCB in LA. And so I was super excited to improv with them and to watch the masters of it improv and then jump in. It was magical. And
I love
they're cool.
that.
They're really cool. They're the kind of people you're hanging out with and you're like, I hope I'm gonna get some residual coolness from hanging out with them. And you just like keep hanging out with them. So I'm very grateful that I got to work with them.
Absolutely. I am so excited for that film. Is it coming out already? Is it out already?
It is going to be released in Netflix. It's been a sort of confusing journey for it. It was supposed to come out at South by Southwest back in
Hmm.
March, but obviously that got canceled because of coronavirus. And then it was going
Yes.
to be released theatrically, and then that got canceled. And now it's not a home at Netflix, which I'm super excited about. And it should be coming out soon in May.
Amazing.
We'll still be on quarantine then, but I hope everybody goes and watches it. And it's a good one. It's really funny. And they are just, Issa and Camille are incredible on screen together. And I hope
Absolutely. I'm super excited to check it out. Before we go, Kelly, is there anything else you want to shout out? Anything you want to promote? And where can people find you on social media as well?
Oh, thank you. So you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Kelly Murtagh. I don't know if you can look up my name on how to spell it, or I guess I could spell it now. Murtagh. And then you can also follow my film Shapeless on Instagram at Shapeless the Film. And that would be great.
Amazing. Perfect. Well, Kelly, thank you so much for joining me. It was an absolute pleasure. Again, thank you for sharing your story. I know it's going to touch so many people like it just touched me right now. This has been Quarantine with the Stars. Thank you all so much for joining us. Stay home, stay safe, and stay positive in these trying times. We will see you next time. Thank
Deep
you.
breaths. Deep breaths. Thank you.
Yes.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.